Hello crafters, my name is Juanette and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel, Juanette's Paper Crafts. Today's craft is a mini album using some of the products from the annual catalog from Stampin' Up! I sell the products I feature in my free tutorial video here, and I would love to have you shop with me at juanettehewitt.stampinup.net or join my team and become a demonstrator yourself. Here are some pictures of the album that I made. One was empty, and this last one here that you're viewing right now, I gave to my granddaughter for her 12th birthday. So the products we are using today is from the Come Sail Away suite. It features a stamp set, dies, embossing folder, designer series paper, Memories and More card pack, which I used, the baker's twine, and the Sail Away trinkets. Here's a picture of the designer series paper and a picture of the stamp set. Here's some of the products I use. Again, the baker's twine, the brads that Stampin' Up! Sells, these lovely little trinkets, nautical trinkets. And this is some of the paper in the pack. I've used a lot of it up, so I only have little samples here, but it's just lovely and great for a masculine card. It's double-sided paper. And there's even some laser cut dies included in the Memories and More pack. They have stickers, and I use some of them. And again, these are for scrapbooking projects, those Memories and More cards. This is the stamp set with the matching die set. And I used images from both of these sets for this photo album. So what you're going to need to make this is 2 pieces of 6.5 by 4.5 chipboard and 1 piece of 2 by 6.5. I happen to use the 12 by 12 chipboard that comes with my designer series paper. You're also going to need either a crafting knife or a crafting tool to cut it. Then you will also need 1 piece of 12 by 7.5 cardstock for your main cover or the outside of your album. You'll also need a T-ruler so that you cut your lines straight. And then you're going to need a piece of 11 by 6.25 cardstock to cover the inside of your album. Now what I did is I cut those chipboards, then laid them out on the larger piece of designer series paper, traced around them so that I would have about 1/8 of an inch all along every side. Then I adhered double-sided tape to the back of them. And this is a little trick that I learned from Jan B from the UK. If you only pull back a small portion of your double-sided tape, it's much easier to hold on to. And if you need to pull it off and realign, it's a little bit easier to do. And then you just pull on the release paper ends and it glues right down. Then you're going to take your middle piece of chipboard and apply it to the back of your designer series paper. And you do want to make sure that you leave a little bit of a gap between the two end ones and the middle one, because your album is going to need to fold up so it will be like a book. And so those end pieces do need to be able to have room to pull up. Then you're going to miter the corners. You're going to bring that little corner up. Use your bone folder to crease it. And you're going to do that on all 4 sides. Then you could take any wet glue, strong wet glue, and apply some to the corner there. And then again, use your bone folder to really get a nice seal on that. And repeat that on all 4 corners. Then start bending up the other edges of the paper just to kind of break down those fibers so that then they will lay flat over that chipboard. Go around and do that on all 4 sides, using your bone folder to help it crease down. Then again, take your wet glue and apply it to your cardstock. Using your bone folder to adhere it, and do that on all 4 sides, which is what I did. Then take 1-inch double-sided tape and lay that over the chipboard, and that is how you will apply or stick your inside cover. So again, remove your double-sided tape. Use your bone folder to crease down the paper a little bit to again break down those fibers. And add some wet glue in between the double-sided tape. You could use double-sided tape on the entire side, but I like using a combination of both. This glue dries clear, so it doesn't matter if a little bit oozes out. It goes on white, but again, it dries clear. And then I add a little bit of glue on those little middle pieces and apply my 11 by 6 1/4 inch cardstock, leaving a 1/8 inch area all around each edge. And then take your bone folder and again, apply some pressure there in those indentations to break down those fibers and to get that cardstock glued to those middle sections. And then gently just kind of bend your front panel over. And then your back panel. And so now you're not able to see any of that chipboard at all exposed. Now these I bought off of Amazon. They are corner book protectors. You're going to take a hammer, and this cloth here is one that I get from work. A lot of you know that I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and a lot of times a patient will have to go for a cesarean section. We may already have their table set up for a vaginal delivery, but then for whatever reason they have to have a cesarean. So we have that sterile table all set up, and we just have to throw those supplies away. So those towels, a lot of us nurses just take them because they're disposable, but actually they're quite sturdy. So then now to make your hinge, you're going to need a piece of 4.5 by 5 3/4 cardstock, and you're going to score along the 4.5 side every 1/2 inch. And you're going to do that on both sides. Turn it over and again score every 1/2 inch. And that will help break down those fibers. Now this was a little bit confusing for me, so I have some still shots here in this video to help you. So each of your ends are going to be folded up. Then the next flap you're going to keep flat. Then you're going to have a mountain fold. So again, you have the outer one up, then a flat one, then a mountain fold. Then your next one is going to be flat, then another mountain fold, and then flat, and your last one will be up. So this is what it will look like. And I have a still shot there so you can see 3 flat areas in the middle. And then when you turn it over, those 3 flat areas will be on the bottom. So then mark each of those areas, and I've marked them with an F. And that is where some tape will go in a little bit. And then an X on each side. So then you're going to take 1/2 inch double-sided tape and run it along those areas that I'm pointing at. Pull off the double-sided tape. You will have 4 1/2 inch areas of double-sided tape, and then I take a little bit extra wet glue and apply it down the middle of those areas, just again to give it a little bit more support. Then adhere the first two sides together and then the outer two sides. So what you're going to see is all three of those F's toward the top. And then when you turn it over, these will be the pockets that your pages are glued down to. And again, on my blog, there are detailed pictures of this. Take your bone folder and press that down so that you make sure that you have a good seal. Now you're going to take 1/2 inch tape and run it down all three areas where the F is written. Don't put any tape on the outside areas where there are X's. Take your album and pull off the double-sided tape, all three of those areas. Add a little bit more wet glue. And adhere that to that middle area of your album, making sure that you have even spacing both at the top and bottom and on each side. And this is what you will see when you hold the album up. So then to make your top opening pockets, you will need 4 pieces of 8 3/4 by 6 inches. Score along the 8 3/4 side at 4 3/8. Again, these will be your top pocket pages. Fold and burnish all 4 of them. Then with your opening on the left-hand side, apply double-sided tape to the bottom left side. Do it on all 4 pieces, but again, only on the bottom left side. I used 1/2 inch double-sided tape. And again, applied it only to the bottom left side on all 4 of them. Remove your tape and make sure you also apply double-sided tape to both sides of each of these flaps. So double-sided tape to the left of that first flap and double-sided tape to the right side of that flap. Then you're going to take your opened piece of cardstock and butt it right up against that flap, making sure you have a nice little edge of the darker cardstock all around, and then fold it over and crease it. And now you can see where you have a nice little pocket there. You are going to take all the other 3 pieces of cardstock and do the same thing, lining up each one with the previous one. So you will end up with 4 top opening pockets. Again, remove the double-sided tape on each side, remove the double-sided tape at the bottom, butt it up against the edge, and then fold the cardstock over. And there is 4 of your top opening pockets. Now to mat all of your pages, you will need 8 pieces of 4 1/8 by 5 3/4. And I've gone ahead and glued the majority of them down, with the exception of this last one. This is soft suede cardstock from Stampin' Up. And it matches this designer series paper in this suite. Then for your photo mats that will come out of each pocket, you will need 4 pieces of paper, and I corner rounded each one of these and then took a 1-inch hole punch, 2 of them for each corner pocket, or top pocket I mean, and applied it so that it would be easy to pull them out. So your photo mat is 3 5/8 by 3 3/4, 4 of those, and then you will need 8 pieces of 3 3/8 by 5 3/8 pattern paper to lay over them. Now your top opening pages, to make these you will need 2 pieces of 12 by 3 7/8, and you will score along the 12-inch side at 3.5 and again at 9 on both of them. Fold and burnish your score lines. using your bone folder so you have nice crisp creases. I corner rounded the top part, then for the middle mat you will need 2 pieces of 5 1/8 by 3 5/8. And this is going to go in the middle to layer over your pocket. Then you will need 4 pieces of 3 5/8 by 2 3/8. Again, I corner rounded the top one. And then you will need 4 pieces of 3 5/8 by 3 1/8 for the bottom flap. And I used solid cardstock for the inside and then a patterned paper for the outside. So just use liquid glue to adhere those mats to your cardstock. Again, this incorporates the soft suede into the pattern paper, which is the rope. And you will be able to put 3 photos on this page. You will be making 2 of these, and you can use different kinds of colored pattern paper if you want them to look different. But I made both of these the same color with the pattern paper on the outside. Now to close these, you can either use a Velcro dot or you can use a magnet. But if you are going to use magnets, make sure you lay them down prior to putting your paper down so that they're hidden. I think Velcro dots work quite nicely. On this one, because the flap was a little bit on the small side, I only used a half of one. Now to make your middle pages with your tags, you will need 2 pieces of 4 by 7/8 by 2 1/2 cardstock. And along the 4 7/8 side, you are going to score at a 1/2 inch and again at 4 3/8 inch. And then along the 1/2 inch side, score at a 1/2 inch. I went ahead and applied my mat to the top, which is 3 5/8 by 1 3/4. You are going to take a pair of scissors and just snip off each corner right where that score line is. And then take a small wedge off of each top area. Then fold and burnish each of your score lines. Apply double-sided tape to the flap so that you will be able to adhere it down and have a nice pocket for another photo page. Remove your double-sided tape and apply a little additional glue to the outside edges. And as you can see, I've already completed the one on the right side. Again, these are the small little pockets for the middle of your album. Make sure you line this pocket up so it's even on all sides and even with the one on the right side. Then to make your tags, you are going to need 2 pieces of white cardstock that are 5 1/4 by 2, and then 2 pieces that are 5 by 2. Then for your layers on top with your pattern paper, you need 2 that are 5 by 1 3/4 and 2 that are 4 3/4 by 1 3/4. I used the scallop topper to add a little border to the top, and then the baker's twine just to add a little bit of an embellishment so that they would be easier to pull out. You could use different pattern paper on each side, but I chose to use the same on each side. So now you have 4 tags to either use as bookmarks or to add photos to. Now we're going to work on the side closing page. And to make this page, you are going to need 1 piece of 9 1/2 by 5 1/2. And along the 9 1/2 inch side, you are going to score at 3 3/8 and 7 5/8. And I apologize, you are going to need 2 of these because you're going to be making 2 of these pockets. Fold and burnish your score lines again. Then to mat the inside of your pocket, you will need a piece of 5 1/4 by 4. And because you are making 2 pockets, you will need 2 of those. I use the detailed trio punch to round off those corners. And so you are going to need a piece of 5 1/4 by 3 1/8. You are going to need 2 of those. And then a piece of 5 1/4 by 1 1/2. And for the outside, again, that piece is 5 1/4 by 3 1/8, corner rounded. And then that small piece is 5 1/4 by 1 1/2. And again, I used a Velcro dot to be able to adhere it closed. The smaller flap will be the one on the outside. Then apply double-sided tape to the back of it. And I applied, I believe, 3 strips. Again, just pulling down a little bit of the tab, all of the middle one, applying some liquid glue to the middle and the edges. And again, see, you've got something to hang on to when you're picking it up. And then apply that to one of your pages. There, my paper, I think, ripped, but it's easy enough to finish pulling it off. So again, that will hold 2 pictures. Now we're going to make our side open panel. And to make this piece, you are going to need 2 pieces of 6 1/2 by 2 1/2. And along the 6 1/2 inch side, you are going to score it at 1/2 inch and again at 6. Then rotate it, and along the 2 1/2 inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Then the pattern paper on the top is 5 1/4 by 1 3/4. And because you're going to be making 2 pockets, you need 2 of those. You are going to do just like we did on that other pocket. You're going to cut along the score line on both sides and then a little wedge off the top. Fold and burnish your score lines. Apply double-sided tape. This is nice strong tape. And because I made one for my granddaughter and this will probably be for a grandson, you need good strong adhesive because they love playing with this stuff. So besides the double-sided tape, I also used liquid glue. And I thought it would be easier to apply it on that side so that it would be easy to pull out the picture mat or the pocket. So for your pocket to slide inside, you will need 2 pieces of 5 1/4 by 3 3/4, and then to mat on each side, you will need 4 pieces of 5 by 3.5 pattern paper. And for all 4 sides, I corner rounded the edges, and so you can see how nicely that slides inside, and you can slide either side in. And it will accommodate 2 photos. Now, to make your closure, what you are going to need is a piece of white cardstock that is 5 3/8 by 1, and then a pattern paper to apply over the top of that, and that's 5 1/4 by 3/4. I rounded off the top edge there, applied double-sided tape to the end there, and I actually matted it on both sides because the Designer Series paper on that one side was Mossy Meadow, and because there was no other Mossy Meadow color on any of the other paper, I double matted it. So what you're going to want to do is adhere it to the back of your photo album at about a 1-inch space. Now use a Velcro dot to be able to close it. And you will notice that it is not a tight fit. And you're going to want to make sure that that is a pretty good size so that as you fill your album out with photos, there's plenty of room for it to expand. Then to run down the spine of the album to cover it up a little bit and make it a little bit neater, you're going to need 3 pieces of 6 1/4 by 3/8. And this again will just go down the spine to add a little bit more interest and decoration. And I used the same pattern paper that was on the outside of the album, using just a little bit of liquid glue to adhere those down. Now here comes the fun part, the decorating. Again, the Memories and More pack comes with stickers, and I use some of those. I have a couple of anchors. I have a lighthouse. The doorbell's going to ring pretty soon because the UPS man is here. Oh, he didn't ring the bell. We have this compass here, and isn't that just fantastic how it turns there? This banner is also from that Come Sail Away suite, and when you die cut that banner, it cuts open areas on both sides so you're able to thread some ribbon through it. We've got some rope die cut there. Those are the trinkets that come in that suite. I took some silver chain and adhered one of those anchors to it. And I took my glue gun here and added a good amount of glue to the top area of the album. By the way, the UPS man is bringing me more double-sided tape. And I applied a little bit more of the adhesive from the glue gun over the top. Now, I took dimensionals and added them to the back of that compass. I did double layers. And here I want to show you, this is the silicone mat that Stampin' Up! Sells, and I had it underneath my glue gun, and some of the glue dripped out, and it just comes right up off of that mat. That is a fantastic mat. So like I said, I did double dimensionals on the back of that so it would be raised up enough to accommodate the glue underneath the metal part of the chain. And I adhered it to cover up again that glob of glue. Now the chain I noticed was a little bit too long. So as opposed to snipping it off, on the final picture you will note that there's a knot in it, and that shortened it up, so I just made a little sailor's knot in it. Then to decorate the front, I stamped the saying or the sentiment, set sail in the direction of your dreams. I took the die that is with that set, die cut some Night of Navy, cut it in half, and then adhered it to both sides of that stamp cardstock so that it would give it a little bit of a border and make it pop out. I decided to adhere this flat without any dimensionals. Here's some more of the decor I did with the album. That little embellishment there on the closure. Is just glued down. Then I stamped a lighthouse out, colored it with balmy blue and a little bit of soft suede. Added some Daffodil Delight to the lighthouse, and then some fine tip glue to the top to give it a little bit of a shine so that it would look like light. Then there's a sailboat, sailor's knot, the saying from the Memories and More, another lighthouse, a compass, another anchor, and then like with all of my projects, a personalized stamp that says created by Juanette. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. You will be able to print off a PDF at my blog, which is juanette'spapercrafts.thesearemystamps.com. Again, thank you for joining my YouTube channel, Juanette's Paper Crafts. And if you would like any of these supplies, you may purchase them at JuanetteHewitt.stampingup.net. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you again so much.